El Harachaman, sweet God, you have taken a beloved friend. We gather now and raise our voices, and a voice she loved, Paul McCartney's voice, crying out to the heavens, asking for meaning and shared purpose this day. Death has taken Lori from us. She is missed already. The gifts of her heart, her mind, her generosity, her spirit, and her boisterous laughter, they lift us up today. We remember together, we offer blessings together. We consider the meaning that we have found in Lori's company, in Lori's arms, and in that of her family. And we try today to draw sweetness and love from the words of our sages. In the Bible, Ecclesiastes offers additional words that have been set to song. Perspective that for everything there is a season, for time, for every experience under heaven. A time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant, a time to uproot what is planted, a time to tear down, a time to build up, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to grieve and a time to dance, a time to throw stones, a time to gather them, a time to embrace, a time to pause from embracing, a time to seek and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to discard, a time to tear, a time to sow, a time to keep silence, and a time to speak. These, my friends, are the times we gather to remember. Lori's love united us in life, and death cannot sever that. Her companionship was shared along our life's path, and that continues now through the tenderness of memory. Let us commit today to remember her in each and every season to come, each and every place that we travel. Ours ahead is the long and winding road in which we will remember her. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we will remember her. In the blowing of the wind and in this chill of winter, we will remember her. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, together, we will remember her. In the rustling of leaves and in this beauty in autumn, we will remember her. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we will remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we will remember her. When we have joys we yearn to share, we will remember her. So, Lori, as long as we live, so too shall you, a part of us, as we remember you. Amen. Famed American dancer Martha Graham wrote the following words, which come to mind today. There is a vitality, life force, and energy, a quickening that translates into action. And because there is only one you in all of time, its expression is unique. If you block it, you will never exist in any other medium. The world will not have it. It is not your business to determine how good it is or how valuable or to compare it with others. It's your business to keep it yours, clearly, to keep the channel open. I once read these secular ruminations of a modern dancer amidst the alternative prayers in a Jewish prayer book. I imagined that it was there to help the one who prays find new ways to express affirmation for life force within us. But in truth, I always wondered what inspired the prayer book's editor to make these confessions of a dancer into the form of a bracha, a Jewish prayer. I think I realized why in recent days, as I spent time with the beloved family of Lori Blum, such a special human being, whom I have known since early in my time at Fairmount Temple, whose life force touched so many throughout her too narrow lifespan. She grew up first in University Heights and then in Beechwood. Many of you know her from there. And if you listen again to the key phrases in the Confession of Martha Graham, life force. There's only one you. Keep your life yours. Keep the channels open. These are principles that touched the way she lived. Make no mistake. Even as we celebrate the bonds we made, we grieve today. We grieve. It is unfair that disease cut her life short. Children are supposed to survive their parents, one spouse inevitably to gather the hugs and embraces that Mark will soon embrace. But it is deeply upsetting today for all of us to imagine the portions of Lori's life yet to be lived out. She will be deeply missed. This is not only our friend, member of our community, this is Daryl and Karen's kid sister. From the time they were kids and until Lori had her own kids, her brother Daryl was among the best at bringing out that stomp your feet, can't breathe, stop it, I'm going to pee in my pants kind of laughter. So many of you remember it. Karen described to me yesterday that deep yearning she feels to hear that trademark Lori laugh. Lori was her truly best friend. She knows, as most of you do, there was not a meaningful comeback to be made to big belly laughs and delights in our joys. Karen said she's so incredibly proud of her sister's bravery, clarity, and sense of purpose, and promises that those commitments will forever impact her. After all, this is also the kid sister who'd be calling her all the time when she didn't know what decision to make or didn't remember how to use, any form of technology. Power is the way you turn on the remote control. I want my garage door open. Well, I don't know, let me show you. Lori asked Karen these questions often, and that's a familiar thing to many of you here. I can hear it in your laughter. She asked Karen with great affection, what would I ever do without you? What a beautiful sentiment. It seems as well that it expressed exactly what was in her heart, not just for her sister, but for everyone. That's how she felt about you, Karen, and about Marty, about Daryl and Cindy, as well as to the siblings that marriages in your family gave you all, and Cindy, Penny, and her Mark, Jeffrey, and his Eileen, and to sister and brother-in-law Barbara and Howard. She was so deeply proud of this entire family. She relished being in your lives and in the lives of your children and now your grandchildren. In this way, she felt the calling to keep life's channels open and to take joy in the present moment. She truly didn't know what she would do without you. Let us take some solace in the fact that she never had to know. On the day of her funeral, it is much easier to dwell on things that she reached for that exceeded her grasp, the times ahead that will have to carry on her spirit instead of hold her hand. Let's remember her desire, her fulfilled desire, especially over these last months and weeks of her life, to not let treatment poison what was for her an open channel of connecting. Path of caregiving, first to her beloved Mark, then to her dear children. For Alyssa and Casey, finally, for herself. Until in the end, caring for herself and her dignity had to take precedence. Lori was born on March 10th, 1960, here in Cleveland. Her parents, the late Arlene Scheinberg, the late Richard Burke, at the time they lived in University Heights. But when she was 6, they moved to Beechwood. And from what I can tell, Lori took over Beechwood. Look at you. You're all here, reminding us how Lori's early life and throughout her life was enmeshed with so many friends. Some of you started making those friendships with her in Beechwood schools, outgoing, exuberant, desiring a connection with others, whether it was cheering on the Beechwood Bison with the cheerleading squad or finding her path academically, that resulted in her continuing after high school to degree at the University of Cincinnati in early childhood education. Her times growing up were such special times in her life. Aside from her studies in Cincinnati, Lori spent really her whole life and built her whole family here she knew and she knows a lot of people. In recent days, so many pictures are being shared, ones that go back some ways, some recently. People that she's known through her upbringing, people she met through Alyssa and Casey's schooling, not to mention the people that she'd meet when she and Casey met or reconnected with people on purpose in this strange ritual of going to CVS or Giant Eagle just to see who was there tonight. They're pretty extroverted, these two. Wanted to know who they might run into in the prescription aisle or the deli counter. That goes back some ways. Jeffrey remembers with a great smile when he was maybe 11 or so on the school bus and his cheer squad, uniform wearing, braces as wide of her face, Lori marched up to him to announce that her mom was the one who was dating his dad. Did he know that? I can only imagine the first thoughts that rushed through an 11-year-old Jeffrey's mind, what he could have said. "Oh, that's you," he says. But it was just a short time later, the two of them were essentially, since the youngest kids in their families, they were now being raised by their parents and finishing school together, living in the same home and not just traveling in the same school bus. He was struck then and throughout her too narrow lifespan of Lori's assertiveness, her ability to make and keep connections, which gave way to such rewarding relationships between her and Eileen and the members of their family. Eileen remembers driving with Jeffrey and Lori to meet up with Penny and Mark and the kids and other family members at Cedar Point in what I believe was 1994. Lori was apparently talking Eileen's ear off about a cute guy she met named Mark Blum, who had taken her out on a date or two and had made such an impression that she was guessing all the way to Sandusky whether or not he'd be calling her again, continuously asking, "Do you think he'll call?" He called. Mark was maybe the first Jewish guy in history to have it work out well, to listen to his parents' advice when they said they wanted to introduce him to the daughter of friends that they met at the country club. You got to picture Mark in his golf attire walking up to a bikini-clad Lori and asking her out. She was a teacher at the preschool at First Baptist on Fairmount and Eaton, and she also taught aerobics. Mark remembers not just the bikini, but that she was wearing her aerobics outfit on the first date at the cheese cellar. There, on that gathering together, they came to realize on each side that their parents were right. These two life forces were supposed to meet. It seems she was somehow bashful in his presence, and he had to draw her out. Do you believe that? He learned then what a huge Beatles fan she was, and her loyalty to the somewhat competitive team then that we still call the Cleveland Browns. When he asked her where she'd like to go for dinner the next Friday, she playfully said, "Chicago." Not realizing that Mark would call her the night before the date and tell her to pack her bag because he had made dinner reservations and lodging at the Ritz in Chicago. And that's where he was going to take her to dinner. That summer was filled with dates, getting closer and even more in love. Lori and Mark began then and never flinched from holding on to an unstinting, uninterrupted commitment for and to one another. And we celebrate that today, Mark. In October of that same year, they'd go to a cousin's wedding in San Francisco and travel to Napa and Calistoga, all around Northern California. They weren't even at her first birthday as a couple the next March when Mark was proposing to her. Why? Because a few days after the first birthday, after they knew each other, they got married. Together with their family, they gathered at Fairmount Temple to celebrate their marriage. I told the family and was showing Casey just before we came in the rental agreement for the social hall and the chapel in the foyer with Arlene's beautiful handwritten signature signing for the bill. Mark said theirs was the perfect match. Now, it isn't here in the contract, but apparently the deal between them was Mark cooks, Lori cleans. You know, I wasn't yet in Cleveland, but I knew Arlene Scheinberg, and I can only tell you that Arlene negotiated a good deal from the temple on that rental. I can also tell you exactly where she'd sit in our chapel and in our sanctuary at Temple and remember all of the very special events that filled her heart with joy there. She loved how deeply loyal and caring the bonds were between Laurie and Mark and blessed it throughout her life and until the end of it. And she relished the same for Karen and Marty and for all of the loving and special relationships that were precious to her kids, her stepkids, her grandkids. She didn't even use all of those formal terms. They were all the kids, Darlene. Celebrations, milestones, graduations, B'nai Mitzvah, all kinds of achievements. I know that Laurie's mom, Arlene, was at the center of those achievements, but Jody tells me that Laurie was somewhere near the buttercream frosting on the cake at all of those gatherings. It seems Laurie would leave her fork in the cake box with the cake so that when she'd return the next day or in a couple of days, she'd get right back at eating the frosting. She had an insatiable craving for that sweetness. And all the happiness his life gave to her and Mark and their loved ones. Wanting one's children to find and feel love from others and from themselves was not something that stayed with Laurie's mom's generation. Laurie wanted to make it part of her own life. And it was so filled with exponential new meaning when she became a mom. One of the first things that Mark knew about Laurie was what a fantastic and devoted mother she would be. And that dream came true for her the first days of January of 1997 when Casey arrived in the world, and a couple of years later when Alyssa's light began to shine into Laurie and Mark's and Casey's. Casey describes her mom's life force and energy as vibrant, bubbly, talkative, and supportive. Mark as well talks about how just being with Laurie could steady him when they'd face tough challenges. She'd help him stay calm. Casey says she loves to hear that she has come to imitate her mom's best qualities. After a meal when growing up, Casey would quiz her mom about how and where they could find Aunt Karen or anybody else. Could they go see them? Or could they go to Dairy Queen or Target or just to connect with others? Casey enjoyed more than your usual child looking at old photo albums, taking tours with her mom of old neighborhoods where her mom grew up, playgrounds where her mom played. It's so good and important that occurred, not just with the photo albums, but with the tours, because I imagine Casey's got a tour or two ready to give us. Drives and walks to the places that were important in her mom's life and now hers. The thing is that the two of them made such incredible memories in the present time as well. Casey has a devilish side to her and so loved creating and executing expert pranks on an easily gullible Laurie Blum. Apparently, Laurie was among the first and maybe the only people Casey has ever met who call or write to customer service immediately when complaining about a manufacturer's product. One time, Casey listened to her mom call Bed Bath & Beyond to complain about the straw in the new water bottle that she bought that wasn't working, and she left her name and number with the corporate office. Casey told her mom no one was ever going to call her. Laurie did not agree. So Casey got to work. She went to her room and downloaded an app that disguised her number as customer service from Bed Bath & Beyond. Proceeded to text her mom and fool her into filling out online information. Seriously, don't give Casey your number. She asked her mom to measure the circumference of the straw and then to convert that measurement into the metric system. It's not only her story. Alyssa told me this story with delight, laughing from her room as well as she heard her parents rummaging through drawers looking for measuring tape, trying to find the formula for circumference. I so love these moves you made. Cracked me up. It did simultaneously make me question my decision to give you my cell number. Alyssa describes her mom the way you know she felt and will always feel about her. She says, I had the most amazing mom. She says, it brings such sweetness to this sad time because she has already and will always hear her mom inside of her heart talking to her at decision points. I'm quoting Alyssa, I can hear her telling me, even the tone of her yelling at me, which way to turn, what decision to make or what to do. Not just at decision times. I can always remember the fun I had with my mom and with many of my friends. You know, not everyone's mom is welcome to hang out with their kids' friends. But Lori was playful and fun. So she was welcome among teenagers and young adults. Lori understood kids. She was a kid herself, a kid sister, a kid to her parents, a favorite aunt sitting at the kids' table with nieces and nephews, filling that family room to my right. An expert in little kids and babies, recent years, an incredibly devoted great aunt to Lauren's kids. As she babysat for Lauren as a child, but relished becoming a great aunt to Lauren's young children. And, well, she tried each time Lauren was pregnant to predict that it was going to be a boy, each time being wrong as wrong can be, until once, the final family baby predicting pool that Lori set up, she was finally right. Casey explains that though her mom thought she was strict, she was not too difficult to push back from punishments. You could make her laugh, Casey said, and that was one of the things that really got to her mom's laughter. I'm told Lori would like Casey to do her imitation now of the popular recording artist Shakira. I'm going to save her from that at this moment, but acknowledge Lori's wish nonetheless. Not here at the funeral, anyway. Perhaps in the coming hours at Shiva or in the coming days, Casey's on it for you. Failing that, you might want to ask Daryl to take out a bottle of skin cream from Avino and do his rendition of the Hebrew prayer Avino Malkeinu, which apparently also put Lori over the top in terms of her bigger-than-life belly laughs. For now, Casey just wants it to be clear that her mom's shoulders were easy places to find comfort, and that she and Alyssa will miss that so much. And Daryl just wishes there were more time to be with her and express his commitment to keep up with more of his brotherly antics, to imagine her laughter, and carry on with Mark and the girls, and the whole family, really, at carrying on her precious legacy. From what I gather, she had a way of doing all the things she wanted from the people that she loved, letting you know that you were important to her, even if she couldn't be physically by your side. Even if you weren't as outgoing or talkative as her, Lori found a way to make a bond with you, Marty Hiller. As your energy at family meals was a little more contemplative and cerebral than your average member of the family you have joined, she found her way to make you an essential part of her life and was blessed with your quiet and loving company as she neared her final breaths. She knew from living on in the shadow of the loss in recent years of Arlene what it meant to carry on after a mom passes away. And she wanted her kids and the kids of all the people that she loved to do the same today and going forward. She confessed quietly to me recently that she really didn't want to be the subject of our thoughts. She hated the idea that if she continued to try even more treatments, she'd be discussed by people all over town in hushed tones. She wanted no part in the path of more suffering. And with clarity and purpose decided to only draw comfort from loving companions and medicines that would reduce her pain and bring the holistic care of hospice to her loved one's side. Friends, that was a very difficult choice for her. I empathize greatly. I'd hate to have been in such a position as her. But if you ask me, her choice seems very consistent with her way of life's direction, the way her life had always pointed. Lori Blum saw things pretty simply. Life is a special cake. We're supposed to enjoy it. Some people love the cake part. Lori was for frosting. And though it's tempting to dwell on the greatest portion of the cake left in the box, the things Lori won't see with her own eyes but through ours, I suggest today that we see our future ahead with a glossed over fork covered in frosting, reminding us of what she devoured. That's not just something she came to. It's not just the rabbi's interpretation. You ask around. Ask Penny, Cindy, Jeffrey, ask Karen or Daryl, ask Marty, Alyssa, or Casey, ask lifelong friends, ask yourself. That's the way Lori wanted us to live. In our tradition, Psalm 90 alludes to the desire of our ancestors to live on maybe 60 or 70 years. Lori didn't reach the highest plateau they had imagined. She did seem to understand what the rest of that psalm offers. She knew that the best of our years include trouble and sorrow, but she got it in her heart and in her huge capacity to love, that life passes by speedily, our death leaves things darkened. And the psalm says we are then bidden to count each day precious, that we acquire a heart of wisdom. A heart of wisdom, which I won't sing, but there's a lyric from Shakira's Try Everything that speaks about filling your heart with love, even when you take in a deep breath, even when you come last. If you did your best, you counted each moment precious. Lori, you are a dear and precious part of our community always. You lived and now you have left all of us a wise and discerning heart. We promise to cherish it and to support your loving family on the long and winding road they must yet travel. Amen. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise. We offer now the El Male prayer, expressing our desire for compassion on Lori's blessed memory. El Male Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanfei HaShkina, Im Kedoshim Otchorim, Kezohar Rakia Mazkirim, Et Nishmat, Leah Bat Shmuel Vechana, Shelcha L'Olama, בעל הרחמים יסתיריה, בסתר כנפיו לעולמים, ויצרור בצרור החיים את נשמתה. אדוני הוא נחלתה, ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר, Amen. God full of compassion, eternal spirit in the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to our beloved Lori. She has entered eternity. Let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life in the heavens. God, you are her inheritance, and she is yours. She's a good inheritance. May she rest in peace. Together we say, Amen. You may be seated. generation before the mountain. You brought forth the earth and the world. You sight 1,000 years or as yesterday. You engulf us in sleep, the span of our life. 80 years, maybe 10 more. Given strength 80. The best is good trouble and sorrow. They pass by speedily, we are in darkness. Teach us therefore to number our days and cards to the light.
The interment will be at the Mount Olive Cemetery. We ask that those who are going to that service reserve your cars directly, please. Turn on your headlights and your hazard flashers, please. Thank you for coming on behalf of the family.
Cemetery, put your headlights on. Please step in your cars at this time.
I don't know. I know, I'm sorry, I'm saying I know. Yeah, I'm sorry. No, exactly.
Yeah. Oh, no, you first. I'll get Jordan afterwards. Come here. Crawl up there. Thank you. How are you? It's been so long. Mal Cruz. Should be under better. Yeah. Hopefully that'll be good things to celebrate.
care, Mel.
That's the rabbi. Yeah. He was for the first funeral. The first funeral I ever did. The first funeral I ever did. That was crazy.
Jerry went to bed.
Yeah, I was on this end. If I see one.
I've been supporting your story.
Oh, yeah, good. Okay. I haven't been
You
yet.
know, I said to her, maybe you need to have a little more, I don't know, more stuff in there. He usually has a story that's